left Indy last night knowing who the four teams would be in the CFP. There was maybe some disagreement about who number one should be. How do we feel about the hand that Michigan was dealt?
No, I mean, I felt like there was a case for Michigan to be the number one team in the final ranking when you just look at the build that they had been on the back half of the season, especially the last 2 weeks, in the win over Ohio State and the win over Iowa. But you look at what they're going to be up against in terms of playing Georgia down in Florida, and I think this is going to be a great matchup for them. So it's really exciting. You talk about a team now that had low expectations coming in and where they are, getting ready to play in a college football playoff. I think it's phenomenal.
Well, this is a little bit of a trick question for me because I've watched all of 12 of Michigan's games, about 36 hours of studying the tape, and I didn't watch one snap of a special team. And my viewership of Alabama was a little bit in the green room yesterday. So I could not compare those two teams with what I've said about the committee all through the year, how I don't think that they watch enough tape. I do know this. I don't think the committee wanted the Georgia-Alabama rematch right away. And for them to say that didn't influence their decision, I don't believe it.
Yeah, I think that one's always a hard sell, that they try to tell us that they're avoiding rematches. But I think that what's realistic about what they were going to do here was that they were going to put Alabama at number one. Georgia had been their number one team all season long. They had said all these wonderful things about their defense. They had seen Stetson Bennett win them a lot of games, not necessarily against elite competition, but they were going to have a ton of respect for a team that beat Georgia. So, ultimately, I think that was the deciding factor. But Michigan certainly had a case. I think that's what's interesting is that was the only thing. Heading into the night, we knew the four teams. And it was just, well, could they give the number one seed to Michigan? And they could have made a case that they could have.
But we don't know how they got Georgia number one. That's the problem with the system, right?
Yeah.
Well,
so
it's a self-fulfilling
prophecy.
Right.
They're the best team.
They set it up for themselves.
Yes, even though the best team that Georgia beat was Clemson, who's 19th in their final ranking.
But that got them in the number one ranking.
Well, of course. So why do you say they're the best team? Maybe you realize in watching them yesterday when they finally faced a team that you think really highly of and got blown out by them, that perhaps they weren't as good as we made them out to be. And so giving Alabama the number one spot because they beat this team that may not have been as good as we gave them credit for in the beginning doesn't really make sense.
I think it's interesting, too. Like, you have to have these conversations understanding that where teams are ranked at the beginning of the year matters. And I know that the college football playoff rankings come out and they say they're not supposed to pay attention to the polls, but it's really hard for me to believe that they don't pay attention to the polls, because the top part of the initial rankings are very similar to what the AP and coaches polls look like. And I think that was a part of Michigan's battle. Yes, they had the loss, but they started off the season as an unranked team. And so Georgia had the benefit of being one of the top teams the whole year. And so you're able to fly under the radar when you're the top team and you just keep winning regardless of who you play.
And this is how it works in the SEC. A team is really good because they're always ranked really highly to start the season. Then somebody beats them, and they don't really get dinged that much. Alabama started the playoff rankings at number 2 despite a loss, as if they didn't have it at all, because then we were just like, well, maybe Texas A&M is good. So that's how it goes. That's how it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So you're absolutely right. If you start the season unranked, even though this starts in the middle of the season, you're still starting behind the 8 ball.
Texas A&M, which, by the way, stayed in the rankings at number 25. So lo and behold, it's a ranked loss for Alabama. Look, Michigan lost to a much better team, lost a really close game. You can nitpick Michigan as well. Nebraska very easily could have beaten them. They played a poor second half against Rutgers. Again, you can poke holes in all these teams, but just kind of the notion that Alabama beat Georgia, who in the end may not have been all that good, but therefore that gives them number one. It's a little dubious. But still, you have a team in Michigan that was picked 4th in its own division in the preseason and now is one of the final 4 teams standing in the college football playoff. Remarkable story. Michigan becomes the 3rd different Big Ten program, as I mentioned off the top, to make the CFP in its history, joining Ohio State and Michigan State. That ties the league for the most different schools to get in with the SEC and the ACC. That ACC total includes Notre Dame, which played in the conference when it made the playoff last season. Let's get more on the Wolverines now. Brooke Fletcher in Ann Arbor with the MVP of the Big Ten championship game, Aidan Hutchinson.
I'm here with Aidan Hutchinson. Aidan, you've had a crazy last few hours. Has it sunken in yet? Big Ten champ.
Not quite. I'm running on low hours of sleep right now. I'm trying to still process the whole thing. It's so surreal seeing those banners hung in our football building, but I'm sure it'll take a couple of days to process.
Yeah, getting the win with your team, but you winning the MVP of the game. How special was that for you?
It was special. It really seeing my family on the board when I wanted to, seeing them, and really just all my teammates being there, supporting me, and we're just such a tight-knit team, and there isn't anybody else I want to celebrate it with.
Well, your journey continues here. You guys are getting ready for the college football playoffs. Number 2, what was your initial reaction when you found out that was your ranking?
Yeah, I thought we should have been number 1, but it is what it is, and we're ready to play Georgia in Miami on New Year's Eve. Anything stand out to you about UGA? They're a super talented football team, and if we're going to win, we got to execute at all levels. You have talked throughout the season about how people just doubted you guys, and you're trying to prove them wrong. This team is the first unranked preseason team to make it to the college football playoff. What does that say about you and your teammates? Yeah, that's really just a testament to, our culture here and our leadership and, the guys that we got in our building. We don't care about what anybody says about us. And, we really just persevered through all the adversity, and I couldn't be more proud of the guys. There's a lot of seniors on this team, you being one of them. So how special has it been for you to share this experience with those guys? Yeah, every single person on this team, especially the seniors, deserve this. We earned it, all that hard work in the off season, all that rebuilding of the culture, and really just, getting this team back on track. If it wasn't for the seniors, this team wouldn't be here. So I'm just so proud of them and so proud of everything that they've done. Great season for your team, but also for you personally, getting a lot of awards, Heisman Trophy talks. Did you ever think that you would have a season like this coming into this year? Yeah, I always visualized it, and I always really dreamed about it. But it's a little bit weird that it's coming true. Right. It's something that you thought about for so long, and you've dreamed about, and you visualize everything, and now it's here. And it's nice. I love it, and hoping to keep it going. What's the camaraderie like in the locker room? You guys are playing your best football right now, taking out Ohio State, Big Ten championship. Just kind of describe the camaraderie. Yeah. We're all just so tight-knit and close, especially after a win like that, just in such a dominating fashion against Iowa. We all believe in each other. The offense believes in the defense and vice versa. And I think we all just want to keep this train rolling and, just keep winning and keep advancing.
That is the plan. More on the Dogs and the Wolverines. Michigan becomes the first team ever to go from unranked in the preseason to the CFP. They've won back-to-back games against ranked teams, scoring 42 in both of them, and now going up against what has been an elite defense for much of the season. Talk about giving up 41 points to Bama in the SEC championship game. Before that, they'd allowed more than 14 just once all season. Two teams, Nicole, that are cut from somewhat of a similar cloth. They want to play really good defense, probably want to run the ball before throwing it, although certainly both are capable of throwing it. Give us a thumbnail on the Dogs.
Yeah, I think you absolutely start with the defense, and this is, this has been their calling card. There's a lot of future NFL talent on this team. Jordan Davis, the defensive tackle, has gotten a lot of their Heisman Trophy push. They've got the defensive guys as well that might get in the race, might get a trip to New York. But I'd argue their best player is linebacker Nakobe Dean. He's just been phenomenal all season long. So you watch that defense, and there really is a lot of talent. Alabama was the only team that was able to really shred this defense to pieces. But otherwise, they've controlled games at the line of scrimmage. They win games a lot of ways, like Michigan likes to win games. But offensively, it's been a question mark. The whole Kirby Smart era at Georgia, the limiting factor has been the quarterback position. And Stetson Bennett really struggled. And once they got down in this game, it was really hard for them to come back. You've got fans calling for JT Daniels to be playing. You've got a really restless fan base now because they're really frustrated with the way that they lost to Alabama. So these two fan bases and programs could not be entering this matchup in any different way. It's a total 180 in terms of the confidence level, I think, coming in.
I think one of the really cool things about watching Michigan this year is how they evolved offensively. And it came all together last night for me. They started out the game explosive. I mean, they had Iowa on their heels. And I did this whole thing with Phil Parker about explosive plays. And it really broke Iowa's back because they're not used to giving up those explosive plays. And then the second quarter, things kind of settled down. It was explosive, and then it wasn't explosive, and then at the end of the day, it was a balanced offense. Now, what I think Georgia's defense is going to face is maybe something that I haven't seen all the SEC schools, obviously, but Michigan lines up in the shotgun and runs the I formation. They're not really a spread team. It's a unique style of offense. And so I'm not sure that Georgia has seen anything like that, Joshua. As you and I always talk in the green room, it's a gap scheme. It's a zone scheme. It's basically the I formation. But their balance is what I think is unique, and how they can be balanced and physical at the same time.
I think the physicality is going to be big because Georgia's going to be a physical football team. But, Gerry, you had mentioned the explosive plays for Michigan, and that was early on in the game. And I think that's going to be a key for them going up against this Georgia defense, because we saw what Georgia's secondary looked like when you could get players out in space. And it was something that Howard had mentioned from his study of that Georgia team, is that defensively, they're really good in the front seven. Their secondary at times had struggled. And I think Michigan can use some creativity to expose that. And if they can get out to a lead early in the game, I think this is where it really turns over for them, because Georgia's offensive line is solid, but I don't think they'll be able to block Hutchinson, Ojabo. And you're going to ask a quarterback who's not an elite quarterback to drop back against those guys. I think that's the game plan for Michigan.
Yeah, and I would say this, Nicole. If Georgia struggled offensively, this is a bad defense to go against if you're struggling offensively. Obviously, Michigan's very good on defense.
And that offensive line has been so good all year. Had given up just 8 sacks. They gave up 3 in the SEC championship game against Alabama. So there is maybe some confidence issues for Georgia offensively heading into this one. Crazy to think these two schools haven't met since 1965, and that is really cool. You've got 2 big-time brands here, and that it's been that long, more than a half a century since they've gone head-to-head. Pretty darn cool. Michigan trying to end a streak of 4 straight bowl losses and trying to get themselves into the national championship. Here is the rest of the Big Ten bowl slate. Iowa heads to the Verbose Citrus Bowl. They will take on Kentucky. Penn State also Florida-bound in the Outback against Arkansas. Purdue gets Tennessee and Nashville. Wisconsin becomes the first Big Ten team to take advantage of the new affiliation in Las Vegas. They will get Arizona State. Minnesota heads to the state of Arizona. They will take on West Virginia. And Maryland gets a drivable destination for its fans, Virginia Tech in New York City. So you look through that whole slate, Joshua, and what catches your eye?
I think the Michigan State and Pittsburgh game really catches my eye, because you're looking at a couple of teams who probably didn't expect to see themselves at this place at the end of the year. Pitt winning an ACC championship, Michigan State with 10 wins. You're also looking at a couple of guys for either team on offense, and Pickett for Pitt and Kenneth Walker for Michigan State, who have been in the Heisman conversation, probably won't win it, so they'll want to go out there and have an explosive final game, so that'll be a fun matchup.
The toughest teams to motivate in bowl season is a team that's going somewhere where they didn't want to go. I don't think Ohio State, and the Rose Bowl is an unbelievable game, right? And it used to be the pinnacle. It's no longer, right? Ohio State wanted to go to the playoffs. So how do you motivate a team that's going to a bowl? How do you practice hard with a team that's going to a bowl that's really not where they wanted to be? And there's some other ones in that. I think Maryland's just the opposite. It wouldn't matter where Maryland went. They'd go to the moon and they'd be fired up, right? So it's all relative to where did I want to go, and where am I winding up going that motivates or demotivates a player.
Well, and you know, New York sometimes is kind of like the moon. It can be a little bit out
easy
there.
on New York. Easy.
I lived there for 6 years. I love New York. I'm just excited about some of these matchups with some of the SEC teams, because the SEC got a lot of teams into bowl games. But, you know, some of the teams, I'm really interested in seeing Tennessee, Arkansas. Like, a lot of this stuff, especially when you get, you know, kind of like a Big Ten SEC challenge, sets the tone and narratives for next season, as Joshua was pointing out. Preseason rankings set the tone for next year's playoffs. So I kind of like when there's enough that you can kind of bill it as a challenge.
And let's not forget the teams like Maryland, that this is development for their program, right? I mean, again, it wouldn't have mattered where they went. They're going to get their first bowl watch or whatever they give out nowadays, machines, video games, or whatever.
Machines.
Phone chargers,
could you be
I don't know.
Phone chargers. It used to be a watch. I've lost
widgets and such.
No, look, bowls come in lots of different varieties. And so we're talking about teams playing for national championships. We're talking about teams playing to get better for next year, to put themselves in a position perhaps to play for conference championships or even national championships going forward. And that's what makes this time of year fun, because different bowls mean different things to different programs. Bucks won the only prior meeting between these two 64-6 in 1986. I had a sneaking suspicion this one will be at least a little closer than that. Here's Buckeyes coach Ryan Day with Katie with him.
Well, Coach Day, you are headed to Pasadena. The first time the Bucks have been to the Rose Bowl in 3 seasons, a season that you played a major role in. What was your initial reaction to the news today?
Well, certainly honored to be playing in the Rose Bowl. It's got an amazing amount of tradition. 16th time that Ohio State's played in the Rose Bowl, and we have a great opponent in Utah. They've done a really good job and winning the Pac-12. So, we want to do this thing the right way. Certainly, it's great to be playing in a New Year's Six Bowl, and I know our guys want to finish this season the right way.
Well, you mentioned the Pac-12 champs, Utah. This is a team that's been a good one. In fact, they beat up on the Oregon Ducks twice in the last 3 weeks. Pretty lopsided victories in that one. What do you look at when you look at this matchup?
Yeah, I haven't watched the film yet, so not there. But I certainly have a lot of respect for Coach Whittingham, what he's done. He's been there for a long time, and I know that they're a strong team, and they've played really well down the stretch, and certainly a Pac-12 championship team. So it's going to be a great challenge for us.
It will be a big challenge, and I know this is a group that you don't have to get motivated. You want to win. These guys want to win. But how do you get them refocused on the task at hand when they are a team that's pretty used to playing in the college football playoffs? And what is the focus? What has to be better come January 1st?
Yeah, we're going to break it up into 3 phases. One is the fundamental phase. The next one is game planning. And then we get to the site in L.A. We'll work on the game plan and have a game week normal. We'll give them a couple days off for Christmas in between. But we got to get right to work. We got to get ourselves healthy. We got to get our, we've had some guys sick here, and we got to kind of get going on that this week. And then we'll start practicing here on Friday and Saturday. And then we just got to get back to work, get back to fundamentals. And, these guys are going to want to finish this thing the right way. They have a lot of pride in themselves and the team.
Every season takes on a different storyline, and there's so many of them. And one that you guys have played are the youth, the experience that a lot of these guys have gotten this year. What has this team meant to you, and what does it say about the future when you look at how many guys have gotten really valuable experience?
Yeah, there's a lot of guys going into the season that had 0 experience, 0 starts, and I think we gained a lot of experience this year, and we learned a lot this year. So I think certainly coming off the last game, there's a lot of things that we learned a lot about ourselves, and so there's a long way to next year. But right now, I know these guys are going to be hungry to make sure they get that bad taste out of their mouth.
I'm going to get specific with you. You mentioned there's so much that you've learned. What have you learned?
Well, I think that the guys have just gained experience. They understand how hard it is to bring it every single week. You have to bring it every week. First off, because we're Ohio State, so everyone's going to, give us our best shot. And, in this league, you're playing 9 conference games, and then we also had the Oregon game, so that was 10 games where every week you have to bring it. And if you, just slip up for 1 week, you could put yourself at risk. So I think they understand that part of it, how long it is, especially coming off of last year. We didn't have that long season like we did this year. And so I think there was a lot learned there.
Ohio State is the only program that has always made a New Year's Six appearance in the last 8 seasons. That's pretty incredible. Coach, when you sit here and look at what this program has accomplished and continues to accomplish, how proud are you?
Yeah, well, the expectations here have always been high, and they always will be. That's just the way it is, and that's the way you want it. That's why you're here, and honored to be part of that tradition. We want to win championships here. That's how it goes, and so we're going to do everything we can to go to LA and win in Pasadena and take home the Rose Bowl championship. But when you think about the great teams and the great players and the great people that have come before, it's obviously humbling, and we obviously want to continue that tradition.
Appreciate the time today. Good luck. Thanks.
All right, thanks.
Joshua, you know this program so well, having been a part of it. This is a team that has played in more bowl games than any other Big Ten school. The expectation is that you go to a bowl, that you go to a major bowl. The expectation is you go to the playoff. So kind of to Gerry's point earlier, how does Ohio State recalibrate and get the guys to focus in on what is a huge honor in a big game?
I think it starts with the leadership, and that's with the coaching staff, number one, emphasizing how important this game is. We're talking about a Rose Bowl game, and I know in the era of the college football playoff, it might not seem like as big of a deal, but it's still a huge game. Then it goes to the leadership of the guys who are in the locker room, the older guys on the team, to emphasize to the young players how they need to be locked in for a game like this. One of the things I'm curious about is, are there going to be any opt-outs, any guys who decide that they want to end their career before this game since they're not playing in a college football playoff? I think it would kind of set the tempo for what to expect with this Ohio State team. But when you flip it over to the X's and O's of this game and you look at what Utah was able to do against Oregon, who's a team that beat Ohio State earlier in the year, they physically dominated Oregon. You can look at the tape between Ohio State and Oregon and say that Ohio State was physically dominated up front. So this is going to be a test of Ohio State's physicality, and I think if they can come out with that mentality throughout their preparation, they can have success against Utah.
Yeah, so not exactly where they want to go. So what motivates them? I think, you look at the last game against Michigan. I mean, who wouldn't be motivated to leave that game behind and to say that was a day that we weren't at our best. We got beat by a really good team in Michigan and give Michigan their respect. But watch the tape and say, really? That was us? And we have a chance to move on from that game. There's a lot of young players. How about defense? Can we do some things in bowl prep that'll help our defense, not only in the Rose Bowl against Utah, which, by the way, is a really tough team. So if you're not really excited about playing, that might not be the best place to go, because I think they're going to punch you in the mouth, because that's how Utah wins the game. So I think you stay to the point about going where you really don't want to be. You have to replace it with something to motivate that team. Otherwise, it's going to be a problem.
Especially because this is Utah's first ever Rose Bowl.
Right.
I mean, this is something you talk about being motivated. They are celebrating this. They are going to be up for this game. They've had an incredible run over the back half of this season in those two blowouts of Oregon. It wasn't just once. It's hard to beat the same team and to beat them so soundly twice. They've also been playing through a lot. This is an incredible story. This team has dealt with the death of two teammates in the last year. So they've become very close. They're very emotional. This whole run, it's just a lot. There's a lot that Utah is still playing for when you talk about, what is that end goal, a national championship versus this is a big deal for the Utes. And Kyle Whittingham is probably the most underrated coach in the country. They are so tough. They are so physical. So they're going to be up for this game, and that's what Ohio State is going to be up against.
You think back to when they joined the Pac-12 and they said, we're not here just to be here and just to be a part of this. We want to win. We want to compete. And this is, in a lot of ways, that ultimate goal. I mean, obviously, every team wants to be in the CFP, but this is something that you can very tangibly point to and say, this is something that we want to do to prove we belong in a league like this. And they have been fabulous, to your point, down the stretch. Nicole, 6 straight wins, really playing well. And as you said, beating Oregon twice, a team that beat Ohio State. So it is going to be challenging. Iowa going to the Citrus Bowl in Orlando to take on Kentucky. Hawks in their 34th bowl game all time. They've won their last 3. They've never won 4 in a row. In Kentucky, they get a team that finished second behind Georgia in the SEC East, making it 6th straight bowl game. First ever meeting between these two and just Iowa's second ever visit to Orlando. Of course, the defense is the calling card for Iowa. One of the stars of that D, Dane Belton, on the opportunity.
The bowl game we're in is a great bowl, and we're gonna have a great competition no matter who it is. And it being an SEC team, Kentucky, that's a great team as well. So we'll have to bring our A game. We'll have to prepare and be ready regardless. But I definitely think it's a good opportunity.
Is indeed. Nicole, what are you going to be focusing on here?
Yeah, well, I think the obvious storyline of Mark Stoops going up against Iowa. This is the first time that he's going up against his alma mater, and obviously there's a lot of similarities in the way that he's built Kentucky and the toughness and the way that their calling card also is their defense, even though, I'm sure in the weeks to come we'll be talking about Will Levis and a lot of the transfers that they brought in offensively that have really been difference makers for them. They still take a lot of pride in being a physical defense and being a tough out in the SEC. So I'm excited to see that. I mean, this game could end up 6-3. It might. But you know what? These are two programs and their fan bases that appreciate that. And Mark Stoops is doing such a phenomenal job in a really hard job. And so I think that's pretty remarkable. But there's going to be a lot of memories, I imagine, of his time at Iowa that we're going to be hearing about.
And, Iowa's in a little bit of the same spot as Ohio State is. The last time they played was last night, and it wasn't a great outing, and I think they'll be motivated by that. But we constantly label Iowa as a developmental program. you can't be a developmental program if you don't practice really well. And so all these practices that Iowa will use to get ready for Kentucky will serve them well going on into next year, because they got the reputation of developmental because of the way they practice.
I think these are two teams who are really going to want to hang a banner and add a trophy to their trophy case, because you look at the way they started off the year, both of these teams, they were really, really hot. And then they kind of settled down into what their level is. And so you want to finish on a high note, especially when you started off hot. So I'll be interested to kind of see that battle. I think the storylines of Stoops going up against Iowa, Will Levis, like you mentioned, coming back and playing a little Big Ten ball will be fun. But this is a game that I'm looking forward to as well.
Wan'Dale Robinson as well. The Nebraska transfer is probably their most dynamic player. But, yeah, to your point, I mean, Kentucky started 6-0. We all know about Iowa getting to number 2 in the country. So these are two teams that started the year really well and trying to finish on a positive note.
Connell steps up, dives in the end zone for the Purdue touchdown. Throw to the end zone. Caught for a touchdown by David Bell. The Purdue Boilermakers knock off number 2. So Connell, he's in trouble, and he breaks free. Pump fakes, throws, end zone, touchdown. Doru, touchdown. Purdue has the lead back. Let the carnage and the chaos continue. Another top 5 team goes down.
A really fun season at Purdue, and Boilermakers fans will get a chance to finish it off in a great destination. They're headed to Nashville to battle Tennessee. It is the Music City Bowl. Purdue back in the postseason after missing a bowl the last 2 years. First time they have ever played in a bowl game in Nashville. Just their second ever meeting with the Volunteers. They beat them in the old Bluebonnet Bowl in Houston back in 1979. So it has been a while. Purdue coach Jeff Brohm joining us now. And, Coach, first off, congratulations. Thoughts on the destination, a drivable one for your fans, and a really great place to spend a few days.
You know, we're definitely excited for our football team and our fans to be able to come down and watch us play. I know our guys have worked extremely hard to get to the postseason. And to play a team like Tennessee that's very talented, high-powered offense, spread you out, and I think it's just going to be a great matchup. So we're going to have to work hard to get ready to play, but I know our fans and players put in a lot of hard work in order to find a way to get to the postseason. So we're excited about this game.
I'm sure you are. And, of course, 2 straight years where you didn't make it to the postseason. What does it mean to be back and to be able to get some more time with this team and to be able to work on building on what was a fabulous year in a lot of ways?
It's always fun to keep the season going, and our guys have worked hard, and they want to go out there and showcase what they're all about. It's about finishing the season strong, and I think during the regular season we did, and came out with 2 wins. And now we've got to finish with a postseason win, and that's really what you work for, is this opportunity to compete against a great SEC opponent, kind of down in their neighborhood, their territory. But I think it's going to be a great turnout. They're obviously going to bring a lot of fans. I think our guys will bring a lot of fans, and it'll just be a great chance for ourselves to measure up against a quality opponent and hopefully make our university proud.
Jeff, what do you attribute the turnaround to this year? What are the biggest factors that got you back to where you want to be with this program?
Well, I know we wanted to man up as a head coach and coaches and players and figure out the things that we need to really get better at and make sure that we identified those first and then went about fixing them. So ever since the last game of last year, we worked really hard, including myself, in order to get this thing fixed and improve in a lot of areas. I think the first thing was we wanted to improve on defense. We wanted to be a more aggressive style and attack and challenge things. And I think we definitely improved in that area. I think on offense, it's about scoring points. And we had some moments here and there where we were good and other moments where we were not. But we got better as the year went on, and we kind of messed and found a way to move the ball and put the ball in the end zone. And special teams really needed to be more consistent. So I think in order to win at a high level, you've got to be really good at all 3 components, offense, defense, special teams. And we wanted to make sure that we put in all the work to make sure that we tried to make that happen.
As a coach in a bowl game, how do you balance the preparation and the fun when you're at the bowl destination?
Well, it is a reward for our players. We want them to enjoy it, and we've given our guys some time off even from the last game and won't start practice until Friday. And we want to make sure that there's a lot of guys that have gone through a lot of injuries and been nicked up throughout the season. We want to make sure we give them time to get healed. We want to make sure that when we get back to bowl practice, it's fun, it's enjoyable. we go out there and work, we prepare, but we want our guys to have a bounce to the step and realize that, this is just a great opportunity. And when we get down to Nashville, we want them to enjoy the area. There's a lot of great things that, they should be able to see and be a part of. We want to do that. But I think our guys understand the main purpose and goal is to win the football game. We've got to make sure we keep that as the main goal. And I think our guys can balance, having fun and working hard.
Along those lines, if you do win the game, it'd be your 9th win of the year, which would be the most for Purdue since 2003. How much do you use things like that as motivation for your team, pointing to, hey, we can make a little history, at least a little recent history with this team?
We wanted to be motivated to finish the season strong. In the regular season, I think we did, and we found a way to, play a little bit better as the season went on and win some of those last games that helped us get to 8-4. And now it's about the reward is playing in the postseason. And, you want to, go out with a win. You want to go out with a bang. We've got a very good opponent that improved a great deal this past year, that was playing hot, that can score a lot of points, that really can do some things that we're going to have to work hard to defend and make sure that we're ready to go. So it creates some challenges, but I think it'll make our team work hard. Our coaches work extremely diligent in preparing for this opponent, and I think we'll put in the time. And I think once you get down there, it's about going out there and cutting it loose, and we hope to be able to find a way to win.
Michigan State in the New Year's Six for the 3rd time, but in the Peach Bowl for the first time ever, taking on Pitt, a team they've never lost to in 7 all-time meetings, facing a Heisman candidate in Kenny Pickett and a familiar face as well in head coach Pat Narduzzi. And pleased to be joined now by Michigan State head coach Mel Tucker. Looking forward to this matchup. And Coach, what was your reaction when you heard that you had made the New Year's Six?
I was very excited. Excited for our team, for our university, for our fans. It's a New Year's Six Bowl. It's a great accomplishment for our football team. We've got a 10-win team and the opportunity to get number 11 in a place that's where we recruit heavily. It's just an outstanding opportunity, and I was really fired up about it.
Coach, not many people outside of East Lansing, maybe outside of the football building, would have given you much of a chance of making it this far this year. I'm sure there are a lot of people even in East Lansing outside of the football office who weren't giving you a chance. At what point did you know, hey, we've got something pretty special here?
Yeah, we knew in preseason camp, after our second scrimmage, I had a conversation with our team, and I told them, I said, we have enough players on our front lines to be able to get the job done this year and have a great season. And I know depth was an issue at that time, and we talked about that, but we felt like as a staff that we had enough players on offense, defense, and special teams to make a run.
Coach, this is the first time I've gotten a chance to speak with you since you were named Big Ten Coach of the Year. What did that honor mean, particularly getting it from both the media and your peers, your fellow coaches?
Well, it was. I really appreciate the honor. It's really a staff award to me. It's a program award. I'm not a one-man show here by any stretch of the imagination. I have a lot of help, great assistant coaches, great support staff, great strength and conditioning, trainers, equipment, nutrition. All the way around. And so, getting an award like that is really not so much about me, but it's about, our entire organization.
While we're on the topic of awards, Heisman voters turn in their ballots tomorrow. Can you make a case for Kenneth Walker III, a final case for your running back?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been around a lot of great players and some great backs, and he's as good or better than the backs that I've been around, and that's in 25 years of coaching. He does a great job running the ball, and you can get tough yards after contact. He run the ball inside. He's got great vision. He's got the speed to get outside. He makes people miss. The first guy usually can't tackle him. He's a fierce competitor. He plays at a high level. He's great in pass protection. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He does it all. He's been very, very dynamic from the first play of the season all the way into our last game versus Penn State. He is a tremendous, tremendous talent. a true difference maker, and he's an even better person. He's very humble, very hardworking, unselfish young man. He cares about his teammates. He cares about Michigan State, and he's a worker. He earns everything that he gets. He's very deserving of this award and strong consideration. I think he's a fantastic player.
If there has been one challenge for your team this year, you don't need me to tell you it has been pass defense. How tough a matchup is it to go against a quarterback who is as good and dynamic as Pickett has been this year?
Yes, it's going to be a challenge, and so we're going to have a certain amount of practices to prepare and get ready for him and his supporting cast, and we're going to have to play complementary football. But certainly, we're going to need to tighten some things up in our pass defense. We're going to have rush and coverage working together, so it's going to be the front, the linebackers, and the secondary. It's going to take all of us to get the job done.
Mel, this has been a really fun team to follow this year. Best of luck here heading to the Peach Bowl and representing the Big Ten. I know you guys will do great and really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. It's been fun. Go Green.
Michigan State, of course, the only team to beat Michigan this year. The Wolverines did win the Big Ten championship game yesterday in emphatic fashion, topping Iowa 42-3. It was tied for the second largest margin of victory ever in the Big Ten championship game. Gave the Wolverines their record 43rd conference title, ended the longest title drought in school history at 16 seasons. And to say it is surprising would be an understatement. We mentioned this earlier. It does bear repeating. Michigan is the first team ever to go from unranked in the preseason to the CFP. So many great stories on this Michigan team. Among them, the steady season turned in by Cade McNamara. He won the job in camp, ended up being third team All-Big Ten, and now CFP bound. He spoke earlier with Brooke Fletcher.
Cade, you guys just got back to Ann Arbor. Did you get any sleep last night?
No, I mean, it was, the boys were celebrating this one, and it's been a while since Michigan has been in this position, but I think, we enjoyed it together.
Yeah, you mentioned it's been a while. So how special was it to be able to, accept that trophy and call yourself Big Ten champs?
Oh, it was an amazing feeling. I mean, we've been working for this all season, and for us to do it the way we did it was an amazing feeling.
I saw you celebrating, with Hassan and Aidan. What has their presence meant to this team?
I mean, those dudes, we wouldn't be where we are today without those two guys, and I think, the rest of the team knows that, and it's not just what they do on the field, it's their leadership in the locker room, and I think, we really appreciate those dudes, and I'm just proud to have them on my team.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk surrounding Aidan for, Heisman. Why do you feel like he is the guy to earn that award?
Yeah, I think Aidan is truly the best player in college football. And I think if, the Heisman goes to the best player in college football, it would, without a question, be Aidan Hutchinson.
You mentioned, coming into this season, I feel like there were a lot of doubters, or you said that. And you kind of feel like it's a Michigan versus everybody mentality. What do you mean by that?
I mean, really what we mean by that is that it really stems back to me and Coach Auerbach had a conversation after last season, and he wanted to build a mentality of Fort Schembechler. And really, when he said that, it was just, it's really Michigan. Everyone inside this building, it doesn't matter what is said outside of it, as long as we're solid in here and we believe in each other, that we can do it.
Was there at any point this season where you took a step back and you're like, okay, we actually can win this whole thing?
I think it's really just, we've been really consistent in our mindset that we're doing everything we possibly can to win just one game at a time. And I think, us having really a bad year last year, not one win was taken for granted this year. So I think, we have and have had the confidence to win it all, but I think, our mentality has stayed the same.
So with that, here they announced the rankings today. You guys are number 2. What was your initial reaction?
Let's go. I mean, all we can ask for is a chance, and we got one.
There you go. And you're facing a team like UGA, strong defense. What are your thoughts going up against a team like that?
Yeah, obviously they have a really good defense, and we know that, and they have some playmakers on offense. And, I think we also, have the same qualities, and I think, we'll be looking forward to the matchup.
You have a few weeks to prepare for the game. So what's the mindset as you guys prepare for that matchup against UGA?
Yeah, I think it's just going to be us recovering right now. I think, now that we definitely have some time before, we're going to make sure our bodies are right, and we're going to be, clicking on all cylinders, really from just our bodies and everything. And I think, it'll do some good. And I think, it'll give us more time to prepare for one single team, which is always good.
Badgers are going to be in Vegas this year, taking on an Arizona State team, the Las Vegas Bowl, Wisconsin program that will extend the Big Ten's longest bowl streak to 20. It's the third longest nationally. Only Georgia and Oklahoma have longer ones. ASU's played well against the Big Ten, won 4 straight against the league, including a somewhat controversial 2013 matchup against the Badgers. And very pleased to be joined now by Wisconsin linebacker Jack Sanborn. Jack, initial thoughts on heading to Vegas?
I think guys are excited. I mean, I know I am. I think it's going to be a great opportunity for our team to go out there and, to make it a memorable trip.
As you are probably aware, there is some fun to be had there. What is the typical balance for you guys in bowl games in terms of how much you participate in everything going on in the community and how much you focus on the football?
Yeah, I mean, in previous bowl games, I think the coaches and everyone have done a good job, because obviously a bowl game is a time where you should have fun. You earn this time with your team, and you should be able to go out there and have a little fun. But at the same time, I mean, understand that you guys are there to also play a football game. So I think in previous bowl games, we've done a good job at balancing both and, all of it together. The goal is to go down there and have a great trip, and that means have fun, but also walk away there with a victory.
It is always tough when the regular season does not end exactly the way that you want it to, and that clearly was the case with your team. How much are you looking at this bowl game this year as a little bit of a redemption and a chance to write a new last chapter on this season?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think I can speak for everyone in the program that our final regular season game is not how we wanted to play, not how we wanted to end the regular season. And now we got a chance to kind of finish on good terms and finish on a positive note and finish as a team. And that's going to be the goal.
The consistency of this program is amazing. 2 straight decades of playing in a bowl each and every year. How do you keep from taking it for granted?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not something that you can take for granted, because there are a lot of teams out there that, their goal is to play in the bowl game. They want to be in this situation, and, it speaks to the consistency of this program. But at the same time, I mean, it's an expectation that we have here. We hold ourselves to a high standard, and we want to continue that every single year.
I would say there was a brief period this year where some might have doubted whether you would get to this point. What do you think the biggest key was to righting the ship after that 1-3 start?
I think just the team sticking together, the team staying together through everything. Because, like you said, the start of the year did not go as planned for us, and it was not how we all wanted it to go. And a lot of people were writing us off. A lot of people were laughing at us. And but I always knew the team that we had. I knew the potential of this team, and with all that, we were able to then just stick together, put together a nice stretch of wins and everything like that. And we fell short in the end, but I was happy how this team came together and really stuck through it all.
How much do you know about Arizona State? Obviously coached by Herm Edwards. You know anything beyond that?
No, I think that's all I know right now.
All right.
So I'm excited. I'm excited to learn a lot more in the next few weeks.
We will not quiz you on their offensive approach then. Hey, one last thing. If you guys are fortunate enough to win this game, try not to break the trophy this year. All right? Can that be a team goal?
We'll try. We'll just keep it out of Graham's hands, and everything should go well.
All right, Jack Sanborn, thanks so much. Congratulations, and we'll look forward to watching you guys out in Vegas.
Thank you for having me.
This is another interesting one to me, because I think this is kind of somewhat Ohio State light in terms of how you motivate your team, right? I mean, it's a little different. They weren't necessarily going to the CFP, but they had every chance in the world to play for the Big Ten championship and kind of let it slip through their hands, much in the same way the Duke's Mayo Bowl trophy slipped through their hands last year. So this is challenging against an Arizona State team. Started the year really well and, okay down the stretch. Not a great team, but an interesting kind of psychological battle here.
I think so. And for Wisconsin, they started off the year really rough. It was a 1-3 start, and then they were able to build into it. Obviously did not make the Big Ten championship game, which is always one of their goals. So to go out and have success in a bowl game, I think would be big for this program. And the way that they would do it, I think, is what would stand out to me, because as you look at this team, they've been solid defensively. The last 2 games were a little bit iffy on that side of the ball, but overall throughout the year, they've been really good. The question has been the offense. When they get into situations where Graham Mertz has to throw the ball to win a football game, they have struggled. So this time between the bowl game, they can work on what their pass game is going to be, both conceptually and also just fundamentally with Graham and how he's throwing the ball with his mechanics and everything. So maybe we come out here and we see a little bit of electricity on offense, a little bit more creativity.
Yeah, Joshua, I think maybe the entire offense, you described it right. They struggled, and then they started moving the ball at will, and we all laughed. Paul was the only one that didn't panic, and, I was certainly panicking. And then at the end, it went back to the other thing. Again, this has been a really, really good program, right? And the season didn't end the way they wanted to end. I really wonder if it's time that you evaluate, and a lot of coaches do this during the bowl period, if you evaluate what you're doing. And in this case, I think you have to evaluate offense. And I don't think it's just the pass game, just Graham Mertz. It just might be the entire offensive philosophy. And I've said that before, and then before I knew it, Paul was marching down the field. So I'm a little bit confused on this one.
I think this is going to be a big opportunity for Wisconsin. I really do. This is an Arizona State team that really fell short of all of its goals. This was a year where the Pac-12 could have been theirs for the taking. They did not play well. They only beat one team with a winning record that finished the season with a winning record. They've been one of the most penalized teams in the country. They're under NCAA investigation. There's a lot going on here and a lot of distracting things. And so I think this is a really big opportunity for Wisconsin to do what you said, Gerry, to build, to figure out some things offensively. And then, as we say, for these types of programs, you use this as a springboard to next year. You figure some stuff out so that you don't have to figure it out next year as well. But I just think the opponent is coming in with a lot of baggage, so there's going to be a lot of opportunity.
I mean, if you do consider the change, it would be nice to change during these bowl practices so that when you come back to spring practice and camp, you've kind of redefined yourself. If you think redefining yourself is the right thing to do.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think if you're going to make that change, the continuity carries over into the spring. And again, you made a really good point. It's not to say that this is Graham Mertz not being a good quarterback. It's to say that there are a lot of pieces to this offense that you could probably evaluate and figure out a better formula to get in the job done.
I will say this is a tough test for the pass game. I mean, if this is a game where you're going to try to emphasize throwing the ball a little bit more, because you think about what Graham Mertz struggles with, it is turnovers. This is a team that's allowed 12 touchdown passes and has picked off 15 balls this year. So you don't want to get yourself into a situation where you're trying to do something maybe isn't conducive against this opponent. But it'll be interesting to see how Wisconsin approaches it. Still a few more games to get to. Penn State heading to Florida. Sean Clifford will join us to talk about a battle with the Hogs. Plus Minnesota and Maryland both learning their destinations and opponents. Thoughts on what's ahead for those programs next.
And that pass fought for. Who's got it? Minnesota does. Kai goes bye-bye. Touchdown. Ottman Bell. Ring it up for Minnesota. The Minnesota Golden Gophers can get the axe. Take a look and listen.
Last time we saw Minnesota, they were capturing that axe for just the second time in the last 18 meetings with Wisconsin. Now they head to Arizona. They get West Virginia in the Guaranteed Rate Bowl. Minnesota team that has won its last 4 bowl games. It's the longest streak in school history. They'll face the Mountaineers for the first time ever, and PJ Fleck is ready to go.
Got a tremendous opponent, really good head football coach, really good football team. I've known Neil Brown for a lot of years. So, again, this is a great matchup. We're very honored to be there. Very excited to be there. And 70 degrees plus, count us in anytime. And we're coming from Minnesota during the winter, so we're very excited. Might even show up this week and start the training now. So I'm just kidding, by the way. But we're very excited. Just want to thank everybody involved. Thanks to our athletic director, Mark Coyle, our president, Joan Gable, for all the support. And just really proud of our coaches, our organization, and our team this year. for doing what they were able to do.
What should we expect here, Nicole?
Well, I think this is going to be an interesting matchup. And, PJ mentioned Neil Brown, and it's a very interesting time for Neil Brown. They had to go 4-2 over the back half of the season to get to this point. He's 17-17 as the head coach at West Virginia, and this is someone that I think a lot of people, we thought this was going to be a really good hire, this was really going to work, and they can, but they've been inconsistent. So it's always interesting when you take a program that is coming off a successful season, figured some stuff out late, going up against a program really, kind of on a teetering edge and a seesaw, trying to figure out what to do and where they're going with their head coach.
Yeah, I got to know Neil when he was at Troy. I'm surprised he hasn't done better. I think he's really got a great future. Kurt Chirac is supposed to come back, or has been named in the new offensive coordinator. He was there a couple years ago, and then he went to Penn State. I'm not sure what his involvement in the bowl game is going to be, but there's enough guys in that offensive staff, Kenny Burns by way of example, who coaches the running backs, that was there with Kurt Chirac. So whether Kurt is going to be on the staff or not, it's going to be a great time to kind of morph back to what they were doing before Chirac left to go to Penn State.
You always talk about these bowl games as an opportunity to reward the players for their hard work, and you look at the last 2 years for Minnesota, it's been really difficult. Going back to the COVID year where they had a bunch of guys out, they were playing guys they didn't expect to have on the football field, did not have a ton of success. Coming into this year where they had some really high highs and they had some really low lows, they had a ton of guys get injured, especially in that running back room. Wide receiver availability wasn't necessarily there all the time. These guys need to go out there and just have a good time at the bowl destination, really enjoy that experience. And I think that'll do well for this team. It's one of those where I think they've got a really good core. I love where their head coach is, and this is going to be a program that continues to get better. So it's not so much about development. It's not so much about what they see on the field. I think it's more about the fun that they can have as a team.
No doubt. And to PJ's point, it's a nice time of the year to go to Arizona, right? It's a really good bowl destination. First time the Gophers have been there since 2009. Meanwhile, Penn State is headed to Florida, going to Tampa for the first time in a decade. They will take on Arkansas, the nation's 21st ranked team. Penn State team that has won 30 bowl games all time. This is also a first-time matchup. They have never faced Arkansas. Hogs had a really nice year under Sam Pittman. Good turnaround story there in a bowl for the first time in 5 years. And very pleased to be joined now by Penn State quarterback Sean Clifford. Sean, what does it mean to be back in a bowl game after not playing in one a season ago?
It's extremely exciting. The whole team's extremely excited. Obviously, we wish that some things went our way this season a little bit differently, but we're really excited to be in such a prestigious bowl against such a great team, ranked opponent, 7th ranked opponent that we're going to be playing this year. So really excited about the opportunity in front of us.
Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned you wish things would have gone a little bit better down the stretch, and I know you guys lost so many close games there. When you have a season that doesn't end exactly the way that you want it to, what can a bowl game mean for the team in terms of finishing on a positive note?
Yeah, it can really just help morale and going forward in the future. And I think that, this team, really turned the corner from 2020. It was a tough year for all of us, especially, our team. But bouncing back, looking back on the whole season, I thought that we battled through a lot of adversity, had a really great chemistry, great leadership, and now just be able to end it in the Outback Bowl and hopefully come away with this win. That would definitely help the team and the morale going forward for Penn State. So obviously, it's a very important game for us.
You've had some good success in bowl games in your career. What's been the best part of your bowl experience as a Penn State player?
There's a lot of things. I think that it's got to be just the time with the guys, just a week away from Penn State and State College. It gets a little bit cold here, so going somewhere warm is always nice. But, yeah, just having a lot of fun with the guys and enjoying my time with them, especially with the guys that I won't see for a while. But yeah, it's just a lot of good memories.
I have heard that it gets cold there. In fact, I've experienced it getting cold there. So you're not alone, though, in the Big Ten footprint, I would say, on that front. How much do you know about Arkansas? I mean, are you a guy who flips on college football during the course of the year and maybe checks out a team like this? Or is it just kind of blank slate and you go into it and you learn about them as you go?
This one currently is a blank slate. I don't have any prior knowledge. We haven't watched any games that cross over. Sometimes you'll see a team on film from a different team that you're watching during the season, but we haven't had that with Arkansas. I've heard a lot about them. I'm obviously a college football fan myself, just making sure, I'm keeping up with everybody. But at the same time, I have yet to see Arkansas, but I'm sure, they're going to have guys, at every position, special team coming in there to try to get a win. So we gotta do our best to prepare and get ready for this game.
We really appreciate your time here today, Sean, and look forward to watching you guys against Arkansas in the bowl game. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Maryland into a bowl for the first time in 6 years, and they match up with a familiar opponent. They take on a former conference foe in Virginia Tech in the Pinstripe Bowl. Hokies will be coached by Brent Pry, the former Penn State defensive coordinator, taking over for the fired Justin Fuente. Terps in search of their first bowl win as a Big Ten member. And it is always interesting, Joshua, when you face a team that is in coaching transition. I do think it's different when the new coach is in place. As sometimes you face these teams that are in limbo, and it seems like they can be kind of rudderless ships. But it's fascinating to see a coach now transitioning into this job. And this is a big game for Maryland, a chance to be in the postseason.
This is a huge game for Maryland. If I was a Maryland player, I'd probably not want to be in New York in December. But, you get over that thing, you get it figured out, and you have a good time there. But when you talk about recruiting for this program, it's really good. We can go out on the recruiting trail and say, listen, we made a bowl game this year. We're trying to elevate our level to make it to the next tier of bowl games and the tier beyond that so they can recruit to that. And then development, because Mike Loxley talked to us during training camp about how he had to get some guys going. And frankly, this has been a banged up team too. So having a little bit of time to maybe get a couple guys back for the bowl game, I think will do the Terps well.
Remember, to your point, Brent Pry, Michael Loxley knows their defense. So if he does coach the defense, he's already got a scout report. And shame on you making fun of New York weather.
I've been to this bowl game, by the way. It is a great bowl game.
But also cold.
It is cold, but it is. They do
Iowa.
An unbelievable job with this bowl game.
Well, when it's cold, you have to do an unbelievable job.
I'm just saying, it is
the
really
bowl game
cool.
in Phoenix, they just say, hey, look, here's the weather. We don't care about the hospitality. Enjoy the sun. In New York, they have to have the hospitality.
I'm usually complaining about the cold weather, and all of a sudden you three people are afraid of cold weather.
No, it's great. It's a great game.
No, we're cold. We're afraid of the cold weather.
One of the most motivated teams you'll ever be around is a team that just broke into the bowl season. And that's what Maryland's going to do. These guys are going to be fired up. They're going to get their gifts. They're going to have extra practices. They might not be all that fired up about the extra practices, but a team that is being built by Mike Loxley, and he has made a big deal out of this all year. He has made this a motivating factor, and I give credit all the time to the non-conference schedule. That put them in position to go to a bowl, and I just looked at next year's schedule. They're also going to be in position with non-conference next year to go to a bowl.
Yeah, it's a huge deal. And they had to win the final game to get to this position. So they will make the most of it. And as you mentioned, Dave, it is weird when you're going up against a team in transition. And I think what that means for Virginia Tech here is really they're figuring out where are guys going to play, who's going to want to go to the portal, where are they going to need to go to the portal to add guys to. Like, it's kind of feeling it out, right? So I think there's a lot of opportunity for Maryland. Obviously, they want those practices. They want to get better. But I think they're going to have real opportunity to win the game, too.
Yeah.
And when you talk about familiar faces, not just Brent Pry, Raheem Blackshear as well. Remember him from Rutgers? Yep. He is the top running back for Virginia Tech. We'll see whether Maryland can end a 3-game bowl losing streak. Thoughts on this odyssey here over the last few days, ending up with the Wolverines getting a shot now 2 games away from winning a national championship?
I've been impressed by the maturity of the team, the players in the locker room, because this has been an emotional stretch for them. Beating Ohio State was very emotional, and they say anytime you win a game and the fans storm the field, you're supposed to lose the next one because all the emotions that go into it. But they got back for the Big Ten championship game, and we all got to see the emotions they had on the field post-game. And now this is going to be a semifinal game where they will have to be emotionally intact. This team is going to have to be able to manage that in the biggest stage that they've been on in a very long time.
The staff has done a tremendous job. I mean, to watch this team develop and improve, you can't say enough about how good the staff did. You mentioned the Ohio State game. You mentioned the bowl game. How about losing to Michigan State and and really just going right past it, right? It wasn't, here we go again. It was like they legitimately put it behind them after 24 hours like you do with a win and loss. Then they beat Ohio State, and then after being unbelievably high for the Ohio State game, they weren't real emotional last night, but they were emotional enough.
They had the Penn State game in between that, too, where that was another one where people said that's a game they wouldn't have won in the past, and they managed that one as well. So they've shown a lot of growth.
They learned something from each of these. Even the loss to Michigan State, they got better and better. And I just think, to circle back and put a bow on it, Jim Harbaugh deserves a ton of credit for what he did to overhaul his whole staff, to question everything they did and how they did it, and to take a team that's basically the same players as last year and turn them into a totally different program is just remarkable. Speaks to leadership, speaks to getting the right people, the staff, all of those things. And beating Ohio State as something that says that you're ready to win Big Ten championships, ready to compete for national championships. This is a different program.
Nicole, we've been talking the last couple of days. A Michigan coach only has won the Coach of the Year award twice in the last 30 years. And it's because of expectations. It's not because they do a great job, right? It's just, it's the bed they sleep in. But no one has done as good a job as Jim Harbaugh has coaching their team this year. And it just comes with the territory that you're not going to get Coach of the Year award.
And that's the deal. And Mel did a really good job. But you start to look at some of these national Coach of the Year awards.
Yep.
I think what I'm amazed by is to overhaul your staff as dramatically as he did, and you kind of had to get them all right. And that's hard to do. Get them all right.
He did. A bunch of young guys.
He got them all right.
Yeah, he did.